Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Oh gosh, it is gorgeous today so far. I mean, it's cold, but it's Montana. Had an incredibly beautiful morning, and before I get started with why I hopped on here, I wanted to share it with you guys, so take a look. Isn't that just beautiful? There aren't I mean, not every morning is like that, but those mornings I was like, I'm gonna come out here and shoot this for you guys, and was happy to be able to share that. I wanted to hop on here this morning because I wanted to talk about a couple days ago or a couple of videos ago, I had mentioned wanting to donate to the local senior citizen center here. Just because we know that November 1st, the food programs are pretty much going to get shut off, and encouraged you guys to do the same. You know, go out, see if there are any food drives or anything like that. Yes, again, there's always going to be people that take advantage of a system, but there are people out there that actually do need it. So I would encourage you still, if you can, to, you know, donate what you're able to those places. But I wanted to share with you my experience of what happened that day. So I drive over to the Senior Citizen Center and I meet with Teresa. All I could think about was Mother Teresa. And she was very nice. She kind of told me a little bit about what they do and their programs. There were some ladies in the back doing yoga. It was actually a very heartwarming experience because I only have 800 people in my town. It's a very small town, and I had never stopped in or anything like that. And it was cute, and I'm glad I did. But after speaking with her, she did make it clear that they were not interested in dry beans, because that was my whole plan, was to get a big bag of beans. So I was like, okay, you know, well, I'll go see what I can get. And so I head into Missoula and had to stop at Costco because that's where I get my dog food. And I had already had in mind the store that I was going to get the stuff for the Senior Citizen Center to donate. So I didn't really look around much at Costco for stuff to donate. I just got my dog food and a couple other items, and I'm an in and out. I don't enjoy being in there. I think it's kind of weird. But so I was really excited. It had been almost about a year since I had been to this store, and it's called U.S. Chef Store, and it's a store that sells bulk because it's for catering. So the first few times I had gone in there, I was like, this is fantastic. They had the big bags of like the Bob's Red Mill polenta and stuff like that, and just, you know, really big, nice, bulky stuff that you can put away and kind of pick from your pantry throughout the year. So it had been a while since I had been. And I was just so excited to go and get this food for the Senior Citizen Center. You know, the feeling of just rewarding, knowing you're helping somebody else. And I'm driving there, and I had this vision of me, like, you know, the door slides open and the wind kicks in and my hair blows back, and I just start walking into this, you know, store to get these items. And I get there and I walk in and I'm looking around and I'm like, okay. The aisles felt smaller. they felt a little more condensed. I was like, this is kind of weird. Maybe they've just rearranged in here. So I hit the aisle, and what my plan was is to buy a big bag of rice. Now, the last time I was there, they had every single rice you could think of in every variety, and in sizes that ranged from, smaller, just little, maybe like a family size, to 50-pound bags. And so I go down and I'm looking, and I'm like, where's the rice? And I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, here's beans, and at the just above eye level was the 10-pound bag of beans, and I had wanted to pick up a few things for myself. So I was like, oh, okay. I was like, seems a little bit more than it was last time. And I'm looking down the shelves, and yeah, there's some rice, but there's a lot of empty spots and not nearly the selection of anything that they had in bulk from before. And I thought, this is strange. It just seemed very off. It wasn't like a maybe, short day where they were waiting for food to come in. The store had completely changed. And the prices were outrageous. And not to end this story kind of on a sad note, but to be honest with you, I had mentioned I'm on a budget. I was really sad because I couldn't get the amount of food for them to donate that I thought I was going to get with what I had to spend. So I did the best I could. I got a couple smaller bags of rice and some of the big, large number 10 can refried beans and some enchilada sauce, because I thought, bulk like that, they could make a casserole or whatever. So the point to my story is that, these food programs are ending November 1st, and there are people that are taking advantage of it, but there are also people that need it. And when I did tell her I was going to be bringing in food, I could sense like that excitement on her face. So I would encourage you, even if it's 5 cans of soup, do what you can and really keep people that there's always going to be someone more in need of you. Even if you're struggling, someone else is struggling more. So just keep it in mind and do what you can. But it got me to thinking about a channel that I follow, and coincidentally enough, happened to see a video by this individual. Now, I'm going to give you guys a heads up right now. If you don't believe in the globalist agenda, you're probably not going to want to hear anything about the rest of this video. But I can't say I 100% subscribe to all the ins and outs of it, but I do believe there is plans being made for our future food system and how we will be able to live. So I ran across a video by, he's an independent war correspondent, Michael Yon. And at first he could be a little overwhelming in the sense where you're like, who is this guy? I mean, he just sounds like a crazy, panicky, conspiracy theorist. And maybe there is some of that going on. However, it's important to know that this guy, is a veteran. He has been everywhere in the world and spent a lot of time doing photojournalism and looking around at what is going on in different areas of our world. And his big focus for a long time has been the Darien Gap, saying that that is where a lot of the immigration that we're seeing is coming through. And so I've followed some of his stories that he's posted along on his channel. And most recently, he just did an interview, I think it was yesterday, with some channel. And he's talking about food insecurity. And, he's addressing something that I think people are ignoring because it's not doing this yet. It's starting to, but here in America, we have such a sense of nothing can touch us that we're not worried about it. And if we are, it's more of a financial base than it is a supply and demand. Food prices are outrageous right now. I understand that. But we have food available still. But what Michael Yon is trying to sound the alarm on is that that's not always going to be the case. And I'm going to show you a video clip from him where he is addressing this food famine concern within the United States. And he talks a little bit about the Argentina beef that we're going to be importing. So take a look.
Are we still facing famine? I thought maybe we'd gotten beyond this with the new administration.
Absolutely facing famine. I started warning about this in 2020, and I was knocking on the door like a woodpecker hitting on the wooden door. I mean, this was clearly coming. Now, at the time in 2020, it sounded ridiculous because people kept saying, the sensible thing, don't you understand we're the world's largest food exporter? Yes, I absolutely do. But I'm warning as clear as I can. That is irrelevant. Trust me, that's irrelevant. By the way, Masako and I, we went down to Argentina in it was last November 2024 in December. And we went to CPAC there and we went to other things. We were traveling around. We're looking at what's happening with the Chinese and others. That's why we were there. We were looking at food security and whatnot in Argentina. We were publishing about this. We've been all over Texas studying the same things, all over Europe, Netherlands, Ireland. We've been, Japan, obviously, we're at now. We were just in Thailand looking at it. We're looking at these issues all over the place. And so now let's get to Argentina. Argentina, we saw what Trump said. He's obviously, our ranchers are going out of business. We could talk about the reasons all day long, but it's a deliberate attack. It's a deliberate attack on our food supply, right?
So again, I mean, you got to take things with a grain of salt. And what I can say about what he has to say is, he's read a ton. I think the guy's too smart sometimes for his own good, but he's read a ton of books. He's experienced more than probably most of us watching this video have as far as being in areas of the world. And so I do believe it's worth, staying afloat of some of the things he is talking about. The second video clip I want to show you is by I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend or what they are, but I could tell he feels for her very much because he always talks about her so highly. Her name is Masako, and she's Japanese. And I love listening to her speak because I love the Japanese language. In my early 20s, I worked at a golf course that was owned by Japanese, and they had a few different workers there that would use the language, and we would all just say moshi moshi, which means hello. And it's just a really cool language. I can appreciate it. But anyway, squirrel. She had something very interesting to say as well that talked about something that I want to touch on after you watch this clip here.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. From Japan, what I need to tell you, American audience, is that it's not just about attacking on the cow farmers in US. It's an attack from within to the US food security. Because what's happening in Japan is that, as you know, in Japan, earlier this year, there was a massive farmers rally because there was not enough rice, and the price of the rice skyrocketed. So the reason why is that Japanese government has been attacking the rice farmers. Government were giving the monies to the farmers to change what they grow. Then that resulted the instability of the production of rice. But what's happening even more furious is that the newly elected Prime Minister of Japan, Sanae Takaichi, she just got the position, and she one of the first things she announced that she is going to set the amount of the rice production for next year. She's going to make it lower because if farmers produce a lot of rice, then the price will skyrocket. In other words, she is attacking the farmers. She is attacking the food production fundamental of Japan. So it's happening all over the world.
So what I thought was interesting about her, what she had to say, which is similar to what Michael Yon was saying, what caught my ear was when she talked about these government ag incentive programs where they're encouraging farmers to abandon crops like rice, which they clearly had a shortage of, to grow these other odd crops that probably, number one, aren't doing as well, and number two, don't address the fact that they are having a rice shortage. Why would you take away a shortage? It doesn't make sense, unless you believe that there's an agenda behind it. But it got me to thinking about, I do know farmers that are constantly approached with, here in the United States, with this preservation program. They want to pay these farmers to basically not grow crops on their land, or grow certain crops that encourage wildlife. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. I love my animals, don't I? You know, anything to help the environment. But when I hear this, and maybe it's just me, shit's not free. Okay. So the government being like, we want to give you millions of dollars to use this part of your farmland. Don't really do anything with it. We want to encourage wildlife to come and, you know, be able to roost and breed and do all this, but don't worry about growing productive crops. We're gonna cover that for you. We're gonna pay for that, but don't worry about it. And I think there's something off about that. I could be wrong, but it just doesn't seem right because, again, nothing's free. Why is the government giving you free money not to grow food? I don't know. I don't really have answers for that, but I do think that it's something, you know, we're and I contributed to this. You know, the other day I did a video about how upsetting it was to see the whole east side of the White House being torn down. And those are distractions, you know. I mean, it sucks. I'm not discounting that. I think it's awful. But they are distractions to other things that are going on right underneath our nose. And, you know, we did have a food famine here. And relatively speaking, not that long ago, you know, the Dust Bowl was a huge, unfortunate problem that we had in the United States. So I don't think we should be so arrogant to think that because we're America, that can't happen here. And again, I'm not saying don't panic, but I do think that we should be looking for ways to be more self-sustainable with our food and our water. Because, I mean, water could be a whole other video, and I'm not even going to get into that, but it's the slow boiling frog. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to wake up and go to, you know, Walmart and not see food at all. But you're going to have experiences like I did, where you went to this store that you haven't been to in a year and you're like, whoa, where's all the choices? There wasn't any. And it will happen slowly over time. And before you know it, we're all screwed. So I think it's important to, you know, I know some of you live in the city, you don't live on land, but there are so many really cool videos I've seen on how to grow, you know, food in small spaces. One I will actually give you, I'll put the link to in the description. His name is Chris, and he's on City Prepping. And he is actually he bought some property. He's down in Southern California, and he lives in the city, but he bought a second property to actually stage how to grow and be self-sustainable in a city-sized block. and he's walking people through that process. So, you know, even if it's just some potatoes or something, don't wait around and have to play catch up, because right now you have time. You have time to maybe think about how you could do a rain water catchment system, or, you know, how to do a patio garden. And you're not just going to plant stuff and have it plentiful like no big deal. The garden I didn't do a garden this year because I didn't actually have the resources to do it. Mine's a little bit more intense than just throwing some veggies in the ground. Last year, all my crops that I did grow were completely destroyed by voles, which are like mice with little short tails. So I actually have to build up raised beds that have hard cloth where stuff can't get up, and it's pretty labor intensive, and I on my own need more time to be able to do that, but I do have intentions to. But you know, use this time to learn and perfect growing food, because it's not easy. Learn and perfect water catchment systems, because there's gonna come a time where, or there could come a time where it's, you know, eat or be eaten, huh, turkey dude? But I've promised you pet privileges, okay? So I'll starve before you're on my plate, I promise. Anyway, so, you know, I guess food for thought. Yes, pun intended. But think about it, and I will put the link to Michael Yon's channel on there. And again, like I said, take everything with a grain of salt. You know, I think when we are in a world now where we are inundated with so much information, there's a tendency not to believe anything, if that makes sense. And so I think it's easy to hear things and just be like, oh, you know, oh my God, you know, or go off the tinfoil hat route where you're just like over the top. There's always a middle, a balance. And I think that's where we want to be with everything. And like I say, moderation is key, you know. But yeah, that's all I got for today, guys. But I hope everybody's doing well. And think about, you know, looking up your local charities and food drives, and go pick up a few extra things for yourself to put away, because apparently we've got some looters that are just getting ready to invade and tear up the stores, and you don't want to be part of that. So as always, take care, guys. Do you want to be Thanksgiving? Love you. You're so handsome. Are you my handsome boy? Yeah? Love you.